Welcome to the Tory Burch Foundation Business Webinar Program, presented by Bank of America. Today's session is on prepare to pivot. A very hot topic. And we are going to learn a framework for assessing your business and responding quickly and wisely to changes that happen. How to use the shifting markets and regulations as opportunities, and really equip everyone to leave today with tools to structure your week and design yourself and your business so that you can stay nimble when it does come time to pivot. I'm Molly Heffernan, Vice President of Marketing for the Tory Burch Foundation, and we are joined by an absolute expert in designing life, growth, the pivot. We have Kareen Zahr Walsh with us, and Kareen is a growth strategist with 2 decades plus of experience across a range of industries, and has worked with executives and founders, like many of you on today, to turn very big visions into action, and action that has results, like 10x on the investment. Kareen is the founder and CEO of Revampologist Coaching and Consulting and the AI-powered business guidance app, Hey Kareen. So, suffice to say, we're in the best hands possible, and Kareen is really going to equip all of us to feel like we can take on any pivot. So hi, Kareen, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I love seeing everyone join from all over the place. This is so great to be here.
It's an amazing community, and we're lucky to have you. Just a couple things before I turn it over to you. We are going to have plenty of time to ask Kareen questions today after Kareen's presentation. So please use the Q&A box for your questions. That way there we won't miss them, and we'll be able to get to as many as possible. Because as you can see, that chat, that's for the community building, and it is moving fast, and there are a lot of you. So Q&A box for the questions, chat for all the community building. Feel free to take notes, but this session is also recorded, so if you miss it, that is okay, and you can go back and you'll have a replay link later. So I think with that, Kareen, I'm going to pass it to you.
Amazing. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Molly. I am so honored to be one of the coaches and advisors of the Tory Burch Foundation and the fellows. That is one of the accolades I am super proud of that I get to do, but most of all, be here with all of you today. So definitely, as I'm going through today's presentation, please use that Q&A box, because one of my most favorite things to do is answer your questions. It's why I built the Hey Kareen app. It is all about guidance for entrepreneurs or leaders, trying to make sure that when you're feeling stuck or have questions, you'll move through whatever it is that's going on with you and not feel alone in it. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, because today we have some amazing things to discuss. So first of all, a little bit about me, just so that you understand what pivoting is something that I have had to master in everything that I've done, which is why we picked that as our topic for this webinar, is because there are so many things we have to go through in order to accomplish what we want. But most of all, it's about who we have to become to do it. So as Molly shared, I am the founder of the Hey Kareen AI app. I basically cloned myself and all my acumen in AI for you to use on the fly. I'm the founder of Revampologist Coaching and Consulting. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I built that. And it was an actual major pivot for me into a 7-figure business about now 7-8 years ago. And I'm an investor advisor in other startups as business as well. I'm a published author, a keynote speaker, and I had a podcast for a while and about to launch a new one that I can't wait to share with you. But most of all, you can see me as your entrepreneurial guide on your journey as you move ahead. So, are you all ready to turn uncertainty into unstoppable momentum? My hope is that you are in this place of, I really desire this. Like, what is that end destination? What is that goal? What is that shift that you need to happen? But you might be sitting in a bit of uncertainty around how to go about it. And I want to give you some permissioning today to dream really big, but also realize that the change that you need to move through and the change that you want for yourself just requires a few practical skills and a little bit of mastery on your mindset in order to step into action towards what it is that you truly want. But mastering that mindset and that capability and finding that certainty to step forward anyway, even through uncertainty, is really what a pivot can all be about. So, are you prepared to pivot? As you know, in the Friends episode, and I couldn't help but bring it up, but that episode showed so much when it was like, pivot, and he was yelling it because the thing was not working. The sofa was stuck in the stairway. We could not move it any further, and he could yell pivot all you want, but without the right strategies, without pausing, without almost like throwing the whole sofa out, it was not going to get there. So I'm here today to help you prepare to pivot with ease so you're not stuck on a stairway like this, almost crushing your hand, trying to have something work that might feel like a square peg in a round hole, but actually find the strategies to design what is necessary for you to move forward as you align your energy and actions towards what that is. So, a pivot in its simplest form is a strategic shift. A lot of us sit in fear of change. I'm someone that had to learn very, very early on in my career that change is inevitable. And if change doesn't happen, we're not evolving. So if you can start to think about it as a strategic shift, meaning I'm identifying something that quite isn't right, or it hasn't hit the level, or it just needs a little tweak, or I've outgrown it, we need to be a little bit more strategic around how we shift it in order to find the certainty to step into it. So it's not about abandoning your vision. If I were to show you my vision boards right now, and this is a tactic that I have year over year, my vision boards actually are on canvases that get things added onto it. Because to me, I'm evolving. So the vision I once had gets expanded the next year. Why? Because I learned something in the year prior. So when you are thinking about a pivot, it doesn't mean abandonment. It means an enhancement. It means that you now have learned something and you want something different. So it's not about abandoning your vision. It's about realigning your approach to better meet your goals, your market, and your values. So I'm hoping that this is resonating on anyone who's sitting here and thinking like, I really need to change something, but I don't know how to do it. Just tell yourself, I just need a strategic shift. I just have to look at it a little bit different. I need to make sure I expand past what I have known, maybe learn something new, and then go ahead and apply it to what's next. I want you to get more comfortable with the energy of pivoting, or some people say change, or you can use the word enhancement, whatever word that is for you. But preparing for it requires tactics. And so we're going to move into that next. But I first want to share the top 4 questions I get asked when it comes to pivoting. Because as you know, I have this Q&A app that I get to see all the questions that come through. And also I have a coaching practice where I've helped entrepreneurs build and scale with their exit in mind for their business. Questions constantly come up because you are testing what you thought was something you wanted to put out into the world. Now you have a response to it, which may require a pivot. So here are the top 4 questions I get asked. How do I know it's time to pivot? Well, look at your numbers, listen to your team, and gather client feedback. So I call this an assessment. You have to assess where you are right now in order to then understand, is it time to pivot? If you've flatlined at all in responses to things, or you maybe have mastered a revenue stream and now it's time to go launch another one, you know it's time to pivot, add something new, enhance it, etc. If your numbers are telling you the response of it's done, like we've maximized what we could do, now what's next? If your current strategy is yielding, meaning flatlining, results are aligning with your long-term vision, it's time to reassess, aka a pivot. So in that first step, and I'm going to share with you my most favorite assessment tool, but this is the number one question I get is how do I know if it's time to pivot? There are a lot of people that sit and hold on to something because they thought when they first had a vision for what it is should yield certain results, but then in actuality, those results haven't been hit because that's just where the market stands. You have to be comfortable looking at it for what it is right now to then decide, okay, something needs to shift. What I originally thought maybe wasn't possible, but what is now that we have the learnings? So it's really important to be introspective when it's time to pivot and to know for sure it is the time. You have to do some listening, you have to do some assessments, and you really have to be realistic at what you're looking at. What should I focus on when pivoting? So that's question number 2. It's really the, okay, now I'm in it. Like alignment is key. Does the pivot bring you closer to your goals? So are you actually clear on the destination? Because sometimes we think we need a change and we want to do something abruptly, or we're more reactive versus proactive. When you pause and you do the assessment, which is, what question number 1 answers, and then you want to think about the how you move forward, you have to be clear on your goals right now. If you're not clear on what it is, the new destination you're trying to go after, then any action you take could derail you from that or hold you back. So evaluating your systems, your resources, and market demand to ensure the change is intentional and growth oriented is really important for you to focus on in the pivot. So the assessment tool I'm going to share with you is a continuous development assessment. And so you'll get to do it over and over again to ensure that your actions are intentional as you grow. Really critical for that one. Third question I get, hey, Kareen, how do I pivot without losing momentum? So some people worry that if they start to shift where resources are applied on something from something that maybe has flatlined, but still needs to continue the service for, you want to make sure you're continuing momentum for all things under your management. So you really have to look at your communication and planning in order to make sure everyone understands that a certain part of their capacity now is going to go towards the next thing you're launching, or the next avenue of revenue, or team development, or training and development to help you accomplish what it is that new goal is. It's really critical to think about the impact of the change to the current staff, the current operations, the current systems you have in place towards what it is that you're doing in order to sustain momentum for that business that you've already built before you start to shift into what's next. You want to keep your team informed, involve them in the process, and ensure your clients understand the value of the shift. Sometimes we feel scared to announce that we're changing things because we don't want to lose those that are used to us behaving a certain way. But if you communicate in a way where it's inclusive to who is being impacted, then everybody's on board with you. And I've seen that miss time and time again, where it becomes this abrupt, this now, or we now launch this and we're focused on this. And then that's when it could feel like abandonment to your client base or to your team because you didn't include them on the path forward. So I just want to remind you that if you're in the pivot and you're looking to instill momentum in all avenues, communication is so key. Being inclusive on your strategy is so key. And not just for your clients, especially for your team, but most of all for you to keep a finger on the pulse of the activities happening towards that new strategy to ensure that you're moving forward with ease. So that's question number 3 that I often get. Question number 4 is, what if the pivot doesn't work? What if it fails? Remember, failure is feedback. I always used to use the language of like, no, I didn't fail at that. I learned a really great lesson. When I built one of my, software platforms back in the day and it didn't get used at all, that was a very expensive lesson, but it made it way easier to launch the next one. So failure is feedback. It is not about something that you did wrong. It's about something you tried, you learn from, and you move forward. What I want to make sure I give you, though, are the tools to try and catch it, to recover as quickly as possible, so that pivot, that attempt doesn't halt all things. And so that's about our tactics while we're in the pivot to ensure that we're on the right track. But if the pivot doesn't work, it's an opportunity to learn, refine, and pivot again, quickly and strategically. And I know if most of you are like me, you have that entrepreneurial mindset, you got 10 other ideas sitting on the shelf waiting to get launched. This is why we have to be really comfortable with a pivot to go into what's next. And please continue to add your questions and put it into the Q&A box, because I know things are coming up for you. I just can't give you this presentation and pay attention to it just yet, but we will have time for it in a little bit for that. The first thing, though, I want to give you is the number one tool that helped shift things for me in my business. When I first earned 7 figures in my business, it was all about my mindset. What I didn't realize is that if I were to just focus a little different on how I was meant to lead my business and who I was meant to become to stand in that vision, and then employ the others that need to stand with me to make it happen, there was no way I was going to hit the goals if I didn't get my mind right. 90% of your business growth is directly tied to your personal growth. So while only 10% comes from strategies and tactics you implement, all of it matters. So it's not to say it doesn't matter, but if you are sitting in that entrepreneurial leadership seat and you're at the head of the helm there, your mindset needs to be right on where you're directing the ship, but also where you're and how you're directing yourself. Like really being true to yourself about the skill set you have to help take this business where it needs to go. So for me, I asked the question in order to get out of my own way when I wanted to scale my business, is what if I could earn 7 figures only using 10% of my time? That made me change not only the business I was in, because I was like, yeah, that would be killer. I want to do all these other things. I don't want to just be tied, give myself a job in my business and operate. And then all of a sudden I'm tied down to something that I could have just done in someone else's company and gotten a check and not run it all, right? Like I know some of you understand that feeling. I had to shift to say, what if I only could put 10% of my time into this business? Who would I have to become in order to hit that 7-figure number? What could that business model be? Am I sitting on any acumen, any product, anything that would allow me to just lead the way I need to lead and allow others to step into their roles to make it happen with me? So one of the first things around the pivot for yourself is to face yourself too, because the change and the behavior of our change comes from how we basically manage through our fears and the stories we actually tell ourselves when results are not what we anticipated, or we're trying to hit some next level, or we're trying to enhance the experience. We tend to sit in the I'm not enough, I don't know what to do, I'm afraid of what the outcome might be, what would people think, judgment, criticism, all the things. When our mind's not right, we cannot lead our business in the way it needs to lead. So I had to pivot my mindset. And that's why I talk about the evolved mindset, because I realize when I look back at my history and then what I bring to the table when I'm coaching my clients is like, I want to make sure your mind is right. I want to make sure that, yeah, fear is going to come up, but we're going to see fear as our friend and say, thank you. Thank you for showing me that that's important. Now I got to get back to business. And that relationship, that shift, that muscle I had to flex every single time I've been challenged in my business to help me shift was all about me. So I want to encourage you to also see where are you spending time on personally growing yourself so that you can also grow in your business, how you lead your business, the role you're meant to play in your business. It is super critical because when I did this shift, when I asked myself this question, and I had been running a healthy, six-figure consulting practice for about 3 years up until this point. But when I asked myself this question, and then I asked myself who I had to become, I was sitting on a 7-figure business. I was able to actually hit this goal in less than 6 months because I shifted the strategy and who I had to be to lead it. I was sitting on it. And that's why I share it with you, because it's something that I had to shift and pivot within myself in order to lead the pivot going forward, in order to lead this strategy. And this business now has been in place since 2017, and it's 10% of my time. And it's, so I want you to know it is possible, but you have to do the growth yourself as well. So pivoting in my role in my business in order to scale past myself is what the result was. I was running a busyness. I always use this term. If any of you follow me, you know, I've said it before. Are you running a busyness or are you building a business? You have to watch where you're spending your own time, and you have to really be very diligent around what's most important for where you should spend your time against your goals as well. So how do we prepare to pivot? Now you have the construct of how I think about pivoting and how I've helped coach my clients and how I've put it into my own business. I want you now to prepare. How do you do it? And I want to give you the tools that help me pivot every single time. For every single business I've launched, scaled, for every business I've advised, I use these same tactics that I'm going to share with you. The primary, though, is to always start with an assessment. Where are you today? Because how do you know anything needs to change if we don't know where you are today? And if we're not clear on that, then we're just adding on and stacking on potentially some of the problems or some of the challenges because we're not taking the time to assess what we need to do or what might need to shift. So I'm gonna share with you my most favorite assessment tool, and I run this monthly in my live free coaching calls in my Hey Kareen community. So you're all welcome to join. But I run this every month with my community because I want to help them hold themselves accountable to the shift that they find from this assessment, these many assessments we do. But this is what also prepares you to pivot with ease because you're consistently looking at how you're performing against what you thought you wanted. So what it is what I call my retrospective exercise. So this is very easy for you to do on an 8x10 piece of paper, literally what we do when we meet monthly as well. And we assess where you are today against your goals. And there are 4 key questions that are asked, and each of the blocks in the quadrant are basically a question. So I'm going to run them through with you right now. And feel free to take your notes or put it in a chat, share with whatever your responses are that come up from this. But really quickly, I go through this. When I hit 7 figures in my business, I use this tactic every week to make sure I was getting the traction I wanted and at the speed I wanted. I would not go more than 30 days on running this against your goals because then you will potentially be continuing to do things that don't fit anymore that need to be enhanced. So this quick assessment you can do against any goal in your business or any goal you have personally even. The first question, top left quadrant, is the smiley face because the first thing we always want to do is assess what's going really well. What's going well? What are the things you have to continue doing or want to continue doing? And make a list against that goal of the things to celebrate. We do not celebrate enough. So we always want to raise the vibe up first thing and say, what's going really well? And jot that down. What do we want to continue doing that we've learned in this last segment from when we did the assessment to where we are today? What is going really well? And so that's what you answer in the top left quadrant. In the bottom left quadrant, there are the things that you want to ask yourself, what do we need to stop doing? What are the things that are holding us back, are blockers from us hitting our goals? What do we need to stop doing? And I say we, because you, as a leader, if you have a team, do this with your team. If you're a solopreneur running your business on your own, do it for yourself in the essence of how you are against the goals you have for your business. But what do we need to stop doing is the number one question that gives so many ahas, because we don't ask ourselves enough to assess to see, like, where are we spending our time, and should I be spending my time there? So what do you need to stop doing? Bottom left quadrant. Top right quadrant are the things, the opportunity to ask yourself, well, what do we need to start doing? What do we need to start doing, enhance, add, etc., that's going to help inch us towards what that goal is? And this is really critical to ask, because sometimes we just get stuck in that doing, that busyness that I'm talking about, the thing that may have become a habit, but actually doesn't reap any rewards for us. So it's, what do we need to start doing in that place? Because if we said we need to stop something, now we should have capacity to start something. So the top right quadrant is, what do we need to start doing? And you list that out. And then the last action is really about, what's the one thing out of the assessment, out of answering those three questions, what's that one thing that you will commit to in the next time frame? So if you're doing this weekly, by the end of next week, if you're doing this every 30 days, in the next 30 days, I always love to have actions with by when dates, because that creates a structure for me. And then I will put the time against it to make it happen. So what is the one thing in order to move forward is what you ask yourself. I personally put this, get out of my own way, because that was the number one thing I had to do when it was time for me. And when I assessed my business at that time and I was looking to scale it past myself, like, oh yeah, it's, you know, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. So who do you have to become to lead it? I was the problem, right? I was the solution and the problem. You all are the solution, and I'm sure a little bit of you is the problem. And I'm saying that with love, because I had to say it to myself. It really was me. I had to get out of my own way. And as soon as I did that, I was able to really scale what I'm doing and to be able to provide the support like I am today for all of you. So how do you then face yourself? Well, I want to tell you a little bit about two of my clients. This is one of my most favorite clients I've worked with. They are partners in life and they're partners in business. But initially, Leslie started online Pilates classes as her business, and then her husband joined her business later. I personally love working with partners in business because there's so many dynamics that occur that you want to make sure that you're understanding your role in the business and not bleeding what might work for you personally in your relationship to come into the business. So a lot of dynamics. Again, I love this stuff. So Leslie and Brad came to me as for some private coaching to really look at their business, get under the hood. They came for one of my 2-day immersive programs a couple of years back. And we identified this exercise. Well, I do this exercise with my clients all the time, and this is what I'm going to share with you too. It's like, you have to know your role in your business in order to lead that pivot, right? I said that earlier. But how do you identify what your role is meant to be? Right. And I realized that I have a methodology that in each role, in each company, you need a creator, an entrepreneur, and an operator, expertise. So they're generally 3 different roles, and we all fall into one of them. Well, when Leslie and Brad did this exercise, the ahas were amazing, because they had been leading their business with assumption that the other person actually enjoyed what they were doing for their job in their company. But when we take the leadership role up and we look at it like, what is the innate skill set you have and what do you enjoy doing? And can we have you lead in your own business? Which is a choice, by the way. When you're running your own business, when you're an entrepreneur, that's a choice. So choose wisely. Choose the role you want to play in your business and bring in others to do the rest, right? But in this case, we had partners in life and business running the business with a lot of assumption on the role. And what they identified was that they actually were misaligned in their role And by getting that clarity on who's going to play what going forward, they were then able to staff the gaps and now have scaled their own business to 7 figures from where they were, which was maybe in the, I think it was like 200 to 300K a year. But by realigning so that they were no longer creating the challenges, doing things that weren't innate to them or weren't even enjoyable, they were able to lead from that place. And so I want to share that tool with you too, because I call that the CEO conundrum. When most of us are founders of our own business, we assume that what we know is actually what's going to take our business to where it needs to go. And with that acumen, we're trying to figure out, okay, well, now I have all these other things in my business I have to handle. I just wanted to launch this idea, the creator, right? So the creator of the business is someone that really loves the idea, the innovation, et cetera, but is challenged by execution. They're the ideas person. And if you're the owner of a business and you're constantly coming up with your next idea, and you're not thinking about, well, how does that impact my clients if I keep changing what my offers are, or I'm not consistent in that way because I don't have a solid operator to execute, well, that's going to affect what's going on in your business. And you're definitely going to have to pivot because you're not going to yield the rewards you want. You also can be an entrepreneur. The entrepreneur here, in the way I develop, we're all entrepreneurs in our mindset, but the role of the entrepreneur in the business and the way I'm using it here is that you're all about the money. You want to figure out the ways to sell those ideas, get them out into market the ideas, shake a lot of hands, make it an actual business. The modeling of the business behind the idea is what the entrepreneur does. And then you have your operator, which is all about execution. So the operator is someone that loves the how, wants to make it more efficient, is all about the productivity, loves the KPI to be challenged by and hit it. But not all of us have all of those skills. Not all of us have the innate desire to even lead from those skills. That's why I call it a conundrum, because we're trying to do too much. So which one are you? Because if we can identify which one you are, then it will help us understand how best for you to lead. And that then will assist you in pivoting more with ease because you then bring the support around you that will then counteract and integrate with what's needed for your business in order to thrive. So if you want to, you could totally take the CEO quiz, which is literally at heykareen.com/CEO, because this quiz will give you the results of which one you lean into most. Most of us, again, are in that middle, but if you can understand it, like I said, 90% of the growth of your business is based on how you personally grow yourself. Knowing this will help you lead it better and also give you the tools that align with the shift, that pivot you're going to have to go through on ensuring that as you move into just the creator role, if that's who you are, who else you need to bring in and hire, what tasks on your plate need to be replaced. So again, a pivot in its simplest form is a strategic shift. It's not about abandoning your vision. It's about realigning your approach to better meet your goals, your market, and your values. I focused on the strategies of how you lead it, but also gave you assessment tools because if you understand exactly where you are and who you have to be, it gives you the pulse on what's going on so that you can pivot with ease as market changes happen, as client behavior changes happen, as team members come and go, as system enhancements occur. If you're not strong in your own foundation for how you're leading it, then yes, all of that change is going to be overwhelming. My hope is that this has helped you feel a little bit more empowered to know that when change happens, it is something you can handle and it is something that you feel empowered to lead with. So I want to give some time for the questions coming up, and I hope you found value in today's conversation. But I can't wait to see what your thoughts are.
Oh my gosh, Kareen, there's so much to dig into. tons of questions. I can't tell you, I've never pulled out my phone faster to scan a QR code. So thank you.
I can put it back up, and I will make sure we share it with everybody too.
We dropped the link in the chat. We're going to
Great.
keep sharing with everybody, and we'll put the QR code up at the end. But I want to dig into a question around, somebody asked specifically to you and in your experience,
Yeah.
if you were to drill down on the one or two mindset shifts that made hands down the biggest impact for either your business or for your clients, is there a pattern? What are those one or two that if I just could do those?
Yeah. So my best advice for this, or the what worked for me, is that I had to detach from the outcome. And I tell my clients this all the time. We all set targets, like we all have this desired outcome. And then when it doesn't happen, we start to look poorly upon ourselves, right? And I'm using kind words even now, because I used to be way harsher with myself when I didn't hit certain things. And then I realized, I was like, the outcome doesn't matter. What matters is that I am listening to the answers to it, and I am continuing to lean into what the end result, not even the end result, what the desired impact. Sorry, I would lean into impact. So it was like, if I could detach from the outcome and lean into impact, those two mindset shifts really helped me shift where I had to spend my time in my business, where I've had to help my clients continue on, but also feel more connected to their work. Because sometimes when we so hell bent on an outcome and it doesn't happen because market has changed, client behavior has changed, product distribution has changed. Like there's so many changes out of our control. So I'm not going to beat myself up for the things out of my control, right? So that's what I would suggest, or what I would state is I learned how to detach myself from the outcome, but then I also leaned more into impact versus results.
That's super helpful. And I think, there's a pattern. You put up the CEO framework. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Many founders that we talk to, you end up starting something because you're passionate about it. There's a pottery maker on today who just wanted to do the craft, and it's turned into a business. Somebody else in the chat says, I really want to be doing the craft, but I'm playing every little CEO role and I don't have the resources yet.
Yeah.
So for the founder who's in that weird influx where I wanted to do pottery, now I'm a bookkeeper, or now I'm a sales strategist, and I'm not doing the thing that brought joy. How do you do that pivot?
Yeah. So you have to plan strategically to know what is it that you need to start accounting for to get the help you need. So if you're selling, if you have proven sales of anything that you've put out into the world, then you know that it will sell again, right? Like you've proven it, and you've proven your creations are wanted. A creator should never be doing the accounting and invoicing. Oh my gosh, like that is like a spear in the heart, in that it is not your innate skill set, and you will always have resentment for it. And I say it because that was me. I couldn't stand, I love the money of my business, and I am more on the entrepreneur bucket, and I'm highly creative, right? But I was trained as an operator. So my career came up as an operator, so I could fall into that really quickly because I had those habits, right? So when you're at that influx and you're like, how do I hire? How do I bring in the other people? I will tell you, if you don't quantify the needs. So let's just say you're fast forwarding saying, I know in my role, I just want to be creator. I know that if I can create more, I will sell more. If I can sell more, then my business will earn more. If my business earns more, that I can hire, right? But if you don't have it as a goal to say, I need to hire a bookkeeper, how much is that bookkeeper going to cost me? Then you will never make it happen, because you'll just stay in the churn, because you're telling yourself in your mind, well, I can't afford it. So again, it's another mindset shift of saying, well, no, if I'm a business owner and I'm leading this business, I know I need a bookkeeper because I'm going to sell things out the gate. I'm going to launch this. I'm going to be in all the stores. So I need to be in creation mode always. So you want to make sure that you also have the goals for your team setting, or like the support you need to replace yourself in certain roles, to quantify it. I have
Okay.
this exercise, I think I have it in my app. It's called Quantify Your Vision, where it's like you take all your goals and put monetary amounts against it. Because a lot of times we think about this arbitrary, like, I want to be known for this,
Mm-hmm.
have these things, or I want to be able to invest this way. But if you don't see the numbers, like, how do you know that what you're earning is going to lead towards that? So it kind of sets the goals there too. I hope that answers the question.
It absolutely does. And if you're somebody who maybe struggles with the quantifying, do you have to do that process alone, or who
Mhm.
and how can you bring other people in the fold to help you place value on things that maybe you've never even thought of needing to monetize? What would you
Yeah.
do in
I
that?
mean, you can easily, talk through things. I'm a good researcher and I also love to leverage AI. So I literally would create the prompts if you guys use chat at all,
Yeah.
chat GBT, or you can even go into my app and she'll help you out too and answer it. But it's
Yeah.
really like if you know you want to achieve certain things, like with a certain margin, like for
Mhm.
example, the pottery business, like I want to make sure that every cup I produce
Mhm.
that has X amount of a profit margin, and
Yeah.
then help me understand if I also want to hire a bookkeeper, how much monthly would that bookkeeper cost me? So how many cups do I have to sell? Like,
Mhm.
like have chat
Yeah.
do the math for you and quantify, say, oh girl, you only have to sell like 10 cups a month. Like, and then you'll have your bookkeeper.
Bookkeeper. Right.
Fantastic. I'm going to go sell 20. So I have my bookkeeper and a profit. Like that's how you can quantify it. Now, if you need to be a little bit bigger in the thinking of like, I need to go add a whole tech team and I need to go launch this new platform, etc., then you would want the financially savvy people who know how to build OpEx forecasts for you to
Yeah.
then understand for investment you're trying to get, this is then how we perform,
Right.
right?
And
So
all along the way, correct me if I'm wrong, the cost of your own time should be in that unit economics. Yes.
100%. So when I said for me, for like, if I'm a seven-figure business owner, let's just cap it at 1 million, I cost the business $500 an hour for every action I'm taking in my business.
There you
So
go.
if I'm not making three times as much, if I'm not making $1,500 an hour for the work that I'm doing for the cost of 500, then I'm in the rears. I'm costing
Mm.
my business. So I always share that with my clients as well. It's such a great
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. Know your worth. There was a great question about what happens when you know you need to make a pivot, but there are relationships that might be in jeopardy in that, whether that is with a vendor, a co-founder, another type of business partner. How can, this person quite thoughtfully asked, how do you communicate inclusively about the pivot to avoid some of the strain that could end up on those relationships that maybe you do want to maintain and hold, but they're just not serving the company or where you're going?
Yeah. So I love a good exit and I love a good letting go. I want to then that and literally you have to almost become a master of being comfortable with the knowing this is something that has to let go. But you
Yeah.
cannot let go unless you're super clear on where you're going. And it's much easier to terminate a service or to if you have to let go of a team member that can't be upgraded to this next need you have. It's all about communicating where you're going and why it's not a fit.
Mm.
So and that is the thing we don't do enough, I think, or actually know how to do, where it's like, okay, Kareen, I need to make sure that I am hitting this type of goal, but I'm launching a tech business, but all my team is creative. So I
Mhm.
need to create the revenue stream and the expense line item for the new tech. So I have to pull away from a creative team in order to bring in the rest. It's much easier for me to have a conversation with the team I'm letting go or the service I'm letting go to say, this is what shifted in my strategy. These are the
Mhm.
services I actually need. And when I assess what you actually provide for me, it's no longer a fit. Thank you so much for your time to date. You helped me get to this point. I really appreciate you. I appreciate you cheering me on, but I'm going to be moving in this direction.
Yeah.
When it comes to team members, I just want to give you this other tip is to share the strategy of where you're going and show that the job descriptions that you're looking for next. Because sometimes we are too nebulous around you're not a fit, and then that's taken like a spirit, but I've been dedicated to you for all this time. What do you mean?
Right.
Well, it's like, no, it's just this is what I need now. And unfortunately, we don't have the means to train you to become that, or your skill set, what you've told me you want in your career is not an opportunity here for you. So it's best for us to actually, end our time together, and then you start working through that transition plan. But
Right.
be conscious, like it doesn't, but do it. Is the point. Like, don't sit in the carrying of siphoning your resources for
Mhm.
something that's not a fit for where you're going forward.
Yeah. And Angelica here in the Q&A asked an interesting question about, if your pivot is away from doing the piece of expertise that you have, like, being the lead doctor or so on of a practice, and you're stepping into a different kind of role, and you need to shift your team's mindset to be aligned with the pivot in the communication, but you're also sort of equipping them to take on this care of what it is that your company does in a way that they haven't maybe been expected to before. Um, is anyone going to care in the same degree that you do as the founder? And how can you kind of evolve mindsets of a team along the way, in addition to allowing them to see themselves there?
So I need clarity on the question.
Yeah,
Is it that their role has shifted, but
yeah.
it's to a role that they don't want to play? Or is it that the role has shifted, the team doesn't recognize this role and know how to behave anymore, and so we need to, the second one.
We're in the latter. Yeah,
The
it's
latter.
what are the new rules of operation now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Awesome. Okay. So it's a communication breakdown of like, this is how you work with me now.
yeah.
And you have to be very consistent with your boundaries on, this is my role in the business now. This is who you go to for these other things. When we have a gap and we know neither party is answering that, both of us will address it, or we're going to have to address it as a team, because I can no longer do that part of the business. Like,
Mm,
your clarity on how you operate when transition is happening needs to be consistent. It takes about 90 days for something to even become a habit for people. And so even if you think you told them once, trust me, you're going to be telling them 10, 12, 50 times before it actually becomes oh, now I get it. So
mm,
have grace in that way, but also have
yeah,
your boundaries and stick to the boundaries, and then communicate on those boundaries really clearly.
mm,
So that way everyone is falling in suit on what that transition and change is.
amazing. In the very beginning, you shared the four questions that you get asked most commonly. And the first one is it time to pivot? And, somebody before the session submitted what if it's beyond a pivot? What if it is truly time to end, time to
Yeah,
close,
exit.
sell,
Mhm.
exit?
Yeah.
How do you go through the same line of questioning to know the answer to that?
Yeah, really you do, because an exit is a pivot.
Mm,
Like, it's truly making a decision of no longer doing what no longer works. So
mhm.
a pivot in how you have to behave. So a lot of us, and I say this all the time, please stop calling your business your baby. Like, you're not
Okay.
gonna exit. You're not gonna exit from your baby. Your baby is for life. Okay, so please stop using that language, because when it comes to detachment, it's necessary in business. Your business
Yeah.
is fuel to your life. It is an asset that you're running. Like, get really
Mhm.
real about it. And if it's
Yep.
time that it's, to leave that business behind, leave that project behind, that detachment is critical to move forward. So
Mm,
if you're sitting in that struggle, yeah, there's no longer a pivot, but the pivot is the exit. It's
yeah.
determining, we're no longer going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
It's really then that inner work on your mindset to follow through, and
Hmm.
know that, again, it's not a failure, right? It's feedback. It's saying, okay, I tried that one. I can't even tell you how many things that I've launched and put out there, etc., flat, landed flat. And
Yeah.
then I was like, okay, I learned a lot. I'll keep going. Like,
Uh-huh.
because that is the capability we have. That's the magic of life. You keep
Hmm.
going until you can't, right? we all have that inevitable end. But I feel like that is the mindset shift that's needed if you're struggling with truly ending something that needs to end. It is stopping you from the gifts you're meant to put out into the world. I'm telling you, once you clear that barrier, you will jump into the what's next so much faster, and it'll be just as successful, if not more successful, than what you've tried before, because now you have learnings.
Right. And your business is not your baby. I love that so
Baby.
much. I see people are quoting you in the chat.
And
Um,
stop calling your team your family.
oh, that one too.
There's dysfunction in family. Like, you can actually decide how your team runs.
Yep.
So that's, yeah, those are the two terms. I'm like, please stop. Like, that's too,
Yep.
it's too much of a veil of unrealistic, behaviors. So
Yep.
please shift those, if anything, from this conversation.
Yes. Yes. You're getting, I mean, that's so true. And I think, in thinking about even the messaging, because you're talking, this is really how we message and what we signal. So somebody asked, I've made a pivot. We've done all the right things, but how do I really communicate the transformative or the new value that is now on the table to my customer, my potential clients,
Yeah.
and build visibility post a pivot?
Yeah. So I think it's about sharing the journey. I do
Mm,
think if you include, like, again, that's the inclusiveness that I mentioned, that if you're
yeah.
sharing the journey of the change you're going through, saying, we tried this, we learned, this is what we want to do going forward.
Yeah.
You know, we we are going in this direction, and here are the results of it. Like, share the
Mhm.
celebration, like share the wins of it all, like have them come along the journey, whether it's your internal team, your external clients, your vendors, etc. Even
Mhm.
if it's quarterly, you're just giving an update on that growth path that you're now on, or that shift that you've made, to celebrate it. I have one client, I did an investment in a startup company that originally was going to be an alcoholic brand, and then alcohol brand, and then now it's like a health and wellness digestive company. Like, they pivoted hard because what
Pivot.
was going on in one arena at that time with what was happening in the market was not hitting the mark. And so us as investors, we all had this expectation. She could have shut that business down. She could have been like, exit, I'm not in it, whatever. But instead, she took what we invested in it, took her acumen, and said, I'm shifting this way. And it was beautiful. She communicated with us quarterly, told us what was going on, how she needed our support. And, well, we cheer her on the whole way. We just want success for her, right? That's why we invested. But those are the things that founders can do and leaders can do through change to make it easier for everyone. But it also keeps you in check.
Right.
By communicating it outwardly, there's an accountability that you're also continuing to show up in the transition.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's important as well.
Yeah. Earlier you mentioned using AI as a
Yeah.
tool, and are there ways that you would recommend folks use AI to bring themselves through any of this thinking or this
Mhm.
process, or how can AI really be a buddy for you through your pivot?
Yeah, I mean, mine is your buddy, so you could go to the Hey Kareen app, and I
Oh,
appreciate you bringing it up. But because she literally was designed to be your guide
yeah.
through all of these type of questions.
Should we put
And
that QR code back up?
I'm sorry,
Should we
you
put
want
the
the
QR
QR code?
code back up?
If you want it, it's heykareen.com.
Yeah.
Where am I?
Here, I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, and I could share my screen again. Um, this guy. So this QR code right here, this is the Hey Kareen app. And basically, this is obviously one of many AI. Look, what I love about AI is just because I am, and we said this in the green room before we came on, like, I am an efficiency, like, culprit. Like, my mind doesn't work unless things are efficient. And I love AI because it's helping me be more efficient in where I'm spending my time doing certain things that I can leverage. So when I go into the Hey, I use her too. She's my
Yeah.
brain and she's my acumen in a back end system that I get to query, and I'll be like, what was that thing that you said when we, like, it's so awesome, especially as I'm aging. I really love it. So my AI is awesome to use when you are feeling challenged, struggled, and you're asking the how do I questions, and you're like, well, who do I even ask this question for?
Right.
She has my 20 plus years of acumen, all my conversations, coaching, everything I've done in one place to guide you. But the reason to use it is to get you into action faster. So it's a
Mhm.
reason I still use chat. Like I still, for example, I'm on chat and I created like a macro tracking for my health because I
Yeah.
was tired. It wasn't efficient for me to go find the food item and list it in the thing. I would just abandon it. So I went
Yeah.
on to chat and said, hey, if I want you to track my macros for me, like, will you like just do it if I tell you what food I'm eating? And they're sure,
Right.
tell me. And I was like, great. And I use it now every day because it was efficient and easy and the machine is doing it for me. So in business though, that's for health, but in business, it's easy to do job descriptions through them.
Mhm.
It's very easy to at least like the framework of things, like the outline of things.
Right.
And then your time is being spent on enhancement, you
Mm.
know? I love it for cleaning up some of the emails where sometimes some of us, we start to write very emotionally if it's a heated moment, and I will
Yep.
take it and I'll use my own AI for this, so it's in my language and my words, but I will say, can you help me make this shorter, succinct with this right type of care in my
Yep.
messaging, but be poignant on the point I want to make. Like, and
Yep.
I will restructure some of that. So there's so
Mhm.
many different tools out that way. I mainly use it for Q&A, like to ease my mind because I have questions about things and I just want answers, and then to assist me with content.
Yeah. I'm going to sneak one more question in before we close. And that is, there's in a macro environment like we're in, where budgets are tight,
Mm,
tariffs are happening. I
mm,
think a lot of businesses are in that question of like, what kind of pivot do I need to do right now? What kind
yeah,
of decisions? And do you have any advice on, in a time when it can feel so urgent to pivot,
yeah,
how to bring yourself to a place of strategy
yeah,
when it can feel just,
out of your control.
yes, and that you're all fueling each other. You go on
Yeah,
LinkedIn and you're like, oh my gosh, like,
yeah, the panic is real. Yeah.
yeah, 100%.
So I try to stay as grounded as possible and I remove all the noise. And
Mhm.
the way I stay grounded and the way I encourage my clients too is to what is it that is in your control? So you are in control of the expenses of your business. So if you are feeling the panic of, I don't know how I'm going to handle a market shift that literally will change the cost of how I do things, get in there and start analyzing the cost right now to see what can you do with your vendors today or with pricing today or the operational structure today to make it more efficient, that if you had to raise any sort of cost, that your clients aren't impacted that much, because that's
Mhm.
the delicate balance of what's happening in the market today. We're hedging. We have to hedge right now. And if it feels uncomfortable, it is, because
Yeah.
it means that you might have to say no to certain things just to stay afloat during the shift that it's occurring. Now, obviously, policy seems to be sporadic and changing all the time, but that's where this nimbleness of that assessment tool is so key for you
Mhm.
to even say, look, we know a tariff shift might happen. So continue the assessment then every week to be like, okay, what have we learned? What's going well? What do we need to change, stop doing? How can we make a, and just be conscious so that when it does shift, you have that meeting on the books to be like, okay, shift, we have to change our goals now. How do we jump into action? Now your team is aligned with doing things with you that way. But most
Yeah.
of all, you're aligned with how you want to lead the shift too.
Mhm.
So change is inevitable, but it's really about the practices in place to use discernment and how you're going to make a decision going forward.
Hmm. Well, Kareen, that is a fantastic way for us to close today's session. And I'm just so unbelievably grateful that you have shared your time and expertise with us. Um, such a valuable conversation when it can feel so urgent to make changes. So thank you.